All right, it's time for Bontis on Business. Our financial expert, Nick Bontis, is here. Nice to see you, Nick.
Nice to see you. Happy Friday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's great to have Friday here. And we know there's a lot happening in the world right now, but we also know the American economy is struggling. The dollar is sinking, but the Canadian dollar is weaker as well. What's going on here? Shouldn't we be stronger?
We should be, but everybody's interconnected. That's the issue. And what's happening right now is leading up to the meetings that are happening in the EU, people are having a little bit of confidence. So what they're doing is they're selling the U.S. dollar in anticipation of the EU getting a little bit stronger, assuming they're going to figure things out with Greece and some of those other countries. So that's basically the situation. We suspect that they will approve those loans that they're expecting in Greece this weekend. And that actually shows confidence and momentum that they're going to be able to handle some of those other countries that are in trouble as well, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, and the rest of them. So the reality is the Canadian dollar is following the U.S. about a penny or two every week seems to be the exchange. But in terms of the U.S. and the Canadian, falling against the EU in total.
So are you saying then you're feeling pretty confident that Europe debt crisis is at least going to be handled in terms of the Portugal, Ireland, Greece, etc.?
I'm pretty confident they're going to do it because, you know what, they have to take a bite at it right now. They can't wait anymore. They're going to have to raise taxes. I know I can't believe I'm giving you advice. Raising taxes on television is not a popular thing. But you know what? For decades and decades, these countries did not pay their fair share, and that's why they're in the trouble that they're in. So raising taxes, reducing pensions, and increasing retirement age, those three things, the most unattractive things that anybody in the world wants, that's what those countries that are in trouble right now need to do in the short term.
You can see how well it's going over in Greece, those riots and the violence.
That's why they're complaining.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk still in Europe. The Harper government is now close to signing a free trade deal with Europe. Is this a good thing right now? Because it seems like Europe is in so much trouble. There must be some pros and cons.
Well, the good thing is that a lot of the European firms that the Canadian firms would be competing against are not in a strong competitive position. So that's good news. The Europeans want free trade. Why? Because they want Canadian investment dollars to go through Europe. And Canadians should also want this deal. Why? Because we already have the North American Free Trade Agreement. Having the European Free Trade Agreement allows us to have a bigger geographic area to compete against the big juggernaut in the global economy, which is going to be China for the next 10 years. So I think this free trade agreement is a good idea.
All right, let's move it back here. Talk about the markets. When you look at the markets every day, when we read off the market numbers, they're moving 100 points, 200 points, this way, that way. What's with all this wild trading and fluctuations? And is this really just the new normal now, these crazy moves?
So triple-digit moves used to be a rarity, but let's not forget, the TSX is already at 12,000. So triple digits is 100. 100 of 12,000 is barely 1%. So it seems like a lot when we say 150 points, but it's less than 1% in terms of the fluctuation. That's one explanation. The second explanation, of course, is the global interconnectedness that I mentioned earlier with Greece and Portugal and Ireland, the U.S. and China. Anything can happen in the marketplace, and that's why it's very volatile these days. It's not like 20, 30 years ago when 5 or 10 points was the average change in a day.
It really has changed a lot, though, hasn't it?
Yep.
Nick, thanks a lot. We'll look forward to seeing you next week on Bontis on Business.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Have a good weekend.